Well, hello everyone. Welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation with myself, Anne Welsh. Today's conversation, are you an influencer? I think this conversation is truly for you, or an entrepreneur looking to build your business, but not quite sure about the sustainability about your business. How do you grow your business? How do you move it from when you're an idea, concept into reality? How do you overcome that pain of the challenges that these businesses present? My guest, Charlotte William, will be telling you about her own journey and how she's found her joy. Charlotte is a multiple award-winning entrepreneur and the founder of SevenSix Agency. Charlotte is fast becoming a go-to voice for brands wanting consultation on inclusive marketing strategy and regularly speaks for and work for platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, alongside sitting on roundtable and panel with industry figureheads such as ISBA and Advertising Association. Charlotte founded her company, SevenSix Agency, in 2019. Since then, he's worked with brands such as Pinterest, Greenpeace, Bumble, and WWF. Charlotte has built an impressive social profile and rapidly growing a highly engaging following on Instagram. She's partnered with a great selection of brands such as Vodafone, John Lewis, NatWest, and Department for Education. She's the co-host of a podcast called Sustainably Influence. We'll be talking about the challenges facing ethnicity, diversity, how to be more inclusive, starting a business, and all about being Charlotte. Can't wait to have this conversation. I hope you stay tuned and join us. Meet my amazing guest, Charlotte. Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation again with myself, Anne Welsh. Are you an entrepreneur looking to start your business or having a business idea, not quite sure how to get started? Well, my guest today, she's very young, she's amazing, she's an entrepreneur, and she'll just be telling us about her own journey, how she got started, and why she thinks it is important that we all get started one way or the other. Just start is what I think was one of my famous things that we should all go. Charlotte is her name. Charlotte, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, your journey and where you've started from and where you are today, so inspirational. People don't think, or people don't realize when they look at your Instagram page, you're like, oh my goodness, she's done so well. She's got all this work going for her. How did she do it? Not knowing all of this was a journey. It didn't just happen, because a lot of us see things on Instagram and we totally assume, oh, that's easy. You're a multi-award winning entrepreneur now, and you're the founders of SevenSix Agency, which is very much focused on inclusivity marketing strategy. Amazing, what we all need now. Before we get started, who are you, Charlotte?
Who am I? I am a daughter, I'm a friend, a dog mom, a fiance, someone who's just trying to live a happy life. That's who I am personally. I'm also a business owner and an influencer, and someone who puts on multiple hats every day.
Absolutely. I mean, people don't understand that the job as an entrepreneur is someone you wear so many multiple hats, because you have to juggle it all and you have to try and make them all work. When you look at your background when you were growing up, I know you said your daughter and you're the fiance. What was your background like growing up?
I grew up in Hertfordshire, just outside of London, and I've got really great parents. They're really loving. It's International Women's Day today, we're recording, and I wrote a quote for a publication that I'm going to be featured in, I think, today, and they said what's your why, and like, how did you get here? And something I'm really grateful for is like the privilege that I had growing up with my parents, that they allowed me to do whatever I wanted, which for some personality types wouldn't necessarily be a good thing, but I think it was very much needed for me. So I was able to just go down the weird and wonderful journey that I chose to go down and take. I remember being at university and all my friends were applying for graduate schemes, and I was just with them and I was just looking around. I was like, I'm not going to do it. And they were like, what? And I was like, I don't want to work for like, no offense, but like Deloitte or like a bank or wherever. I just want to like go and get some internships in London and just do like work for like cool creatives. And they were like, that's not how you get a job. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure it is. Like, I'm pretty sure you can do that. This is me watching way too much like Sex and the City and like all these like programs in America. But I could do it. I did do it and it worked. But my parents were really relaxed with me and just said, you know, if you know that you can do this and if you feel like this is the route, we'll support you. I don't come from like a wealthy background at all, but my parents, our family are from London, so I was very lucky and I have a privilege, so I could stay at any of my grandparents or my cousins or whoever's house if I needed to stay for for these internships. I didn't have to pay for travel too much. But yeah, I think a lot of my success comes from having parents who are very patient.
Yes. I like that, because I think that has also taught you, because the entrepreneurship journey is also a lot of patience. You need to breathe in and out every day, because every day with being an entrepreneur is different. And you chose that path for your career. Can you tell us a little bit about what that journey has been like for you?
Yeah, I don't think I recognized the kind of entrepreneurship journey until recently, because I went freelance in 2018 and I was like, yeah, that's when I became an entrepreneur, right? In my head, that makes sense. But actually, when I was at uni, I was doing lots of freelance work and lots of kind of social media jobs, and like what I would say was an internship, but was actually just like someone paying me like £7 an hour to like sort some stuff out on well, not Instagram at the time, on their like Facebook and their blogs and stuff like that. So I have always been, you know, a bit of a like side hustle kind of person. I've always had a blog since 2010. Before that, I had a MySpace page that I was obsessed with. And I moved to Portugal when I was quite young, straight after uni. I was 21 until I was about 24. And I was working in a school, but also doing like tutoring at my house to just like make that extra cash. So I was always like doing something, but I don't think I recognized that until recently, that was like entrepreneurship. I was always like having like a little business. When I was like 16, I used to put on gigs in like the local like rugby club. Like I was always doing something.
That's amazing, because a lot of people just never thought about doing something. I remember my days, I just went straight the typical route. You go to university, you go get a job, an internship and somewhere, they hopefully they take you on and you come back and stay there full time. Now it's always been my journey, and I never thought about the entrepreneurship route until recently, actually, when I started saying, oh, this is actually, it's hard work, but it's actually something that is flexible for me, for my own makeup, my own setting. I think I needed that flexibility where I didn't mind working till 3 a.m. in the morning, but I have a problem getting up so early. So that is that kind of balance. Did you have a mentor in any of your things doing this whole journey? Have you ever had a mentor that's guided you through this process?
Not until recently, actually. I've spoken about this a couple of times on panels. I didn't know that you could get mentors until like a couple of years ago. And it was my sister-in-law was talking about her mentor, and then someone else mentioned it. And I was just like, sounds really weird, but I just thought that was just like for rich people. And I was like, oh, like normal people can have a mentor. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I found it quite difficult to find someone, because mentorship, I think now it's actually there's like a bit of a weird kind of thing with mentorship where people are disguising it as like business coaching. So there's like a bit of I personally believe there's a difference between a mentor and a coach. And sometimes they can be both, but I know lots of people that are given guidance and advice from mentors, from people where there's a mutual exchange of like compassion, whereas there are business coaches who can coach you on your journey and you pay them and it's a transaction. So when I was looking for a mentor, when I figured out that I could actually have one, because I wasn't like a middle-aged rich woman, I was like, okay, let me find one. And I kept finding business coaches that really wanted to take me on for a fee. And I was like, oh no, that's not, like, obviously I pay for people's time, but that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for someone who had the experience, in my industry, but maybe I could teach them something as well. And there would be like a mutual exchange, which is what I'd heard mentorship was about. So yeah, I never actually had a mentor. I've had great guidance from my parents, from my siblings. My younger siblings are like really really wise. So like if I ever need to like chat through an idea, I'll call my sister, my younger sister, or my younger brother, and talk it through. My older brother's really good as well when it comes to talking about finance. My fiance has been like a really important part of my obviously my life, but my business life and my entrepreneurial growth, because I didn't really know what I was doing essentially until now, and I still don't think I know what I'm doing. So he definitely helps me along the way, and I'm not very numbers focused, which is quite bad when you're a business owner. So he definitely comes in with spreadsheets because that is his forte. But yeah, I haven't had like an official mentor. I do have one now, who we don't meet that often, but she, like our first session, I got her through an advertising kind of membership platform called MIFA, Media for All. And they were offering mentorship for people of color in the advertising industry, and it was free. And I thought, you know what, why not? So I went for it, and I had this one session with her like mid last year, and it changed my whole business, just one session, because she worked in the advertising industry. She had a lot of experience, and she questioned a lot of things that I was doing that I was questioning as well. And I was just like, I don't really know how to like navigate this. And she just talked it through. She didn't give me necessarily advice on what to do. She just talked it through with me and was like, these are things that, you could do. These are things that you're doing now. Why do you do this? She just asked loads of questions. And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, what's your business plan like? And I was like, I don't have one. And she was like, how are you 2 years into running a business and don't have a business plan? And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, I do have a mentor now. We meet every few months. She's amazing. And I also like that she's a woman, and she's also a woman of color. So I find that great, because we're able to kind of connect in that way, especially in the advertising industry, which is very male dominated and very white. And yeah, that's just a recent discovery for me.
Oh, that's wonderful, because I'm not, yeah, you just touched on the very critical things that many people call, especially Black men and Black women, we don't understand that, because it's not something we talk about in our family. It's not something our parents come to us and say, oh, by the way, I had a mentor, so I think you should get someone who should help you navigate this path or navigate this direction. So, you're doing things, you're building this whole enterprise on your own, and not realizing there's someone out there who could just, not like, I love how you said it, not a business coach, not someone you pay, just someone where there's a benefit for all, because there's also something you can also give someone who's mentoring you. You can also give something back to them. So it's nice that you're talking about it, and you're now spreading the importance of it as well, because from your experience, you learned that there's things they can actually help you with, and that helps you to actually grow and change your business, like you said, with the business plan. Most people don't even think, they've been running a business for so long, and they don't think that, okay, what's your projection? Where do you want the business to be in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or do you just want? Is this still a hobby? So that's so glad you touched on that. Was there an event in your life that made you want to make an impactful voice? Because you're quite an impactful voice. You're very vocal about the inclusive diversity and inclusivity. Was there anything in your life that got you so passionate about this subject area?
I think for me, it's just experience. So I've been an influencer for just over a decade. I've worked in social media and influencer marketing for about the same time. And I work really hard. This is just something I know to note. I work really hard to just try and be the best. I'm very competitive. I'm very focused, and I always have been since I was really young. And I'm also a bit of a geek. So I geek out quite heavily. So when I went freelance, I started working with some different companies and also started to do more influencer campaigns myself because I had more time, because I wasn't tied to the 9 to 5 anymore. And I just realized how the influence space just wasn't, like, I'd noticed before, but just not in the same way, just how nobody looked like me. And there are lots of influencers, and I hate when I say this, and I want to put context. There are lots of influencers, or there were lots of influencers that looked like me. But at the time in 2018, there were lots of events that were going on, and I would go to these events and I would be the only person, for a lot of them, the only person of color in the room, not just Black women or mixed race women, but the only person of color in the entire room. And I would just sit there and just be like, this is not okay. Like, I'm from Hertfordshire, where I grew up was very white, and it's now way more diverse. It actually like diversified like halfway through my life there. Like, my brother and sister had a very different experience to me. But so I was used to being like one of a few sprinkle of people of color like in a room. I don't have a problem with it. I was just getting really confused as to why we worked in such an important industry for kind of, for, what do I want to say, for impressioning young people. And I would look around this room and I would just see the only people that were impressioning these young people were most of the time young, very slim white women, and mostly blonde. And it just made me think, are they the only stories that we're telling? Do influencers only look like them? Why is this a thing? So I have loads of friends who are influencers, and at the time were so much bigger than me. And I would go to these events and I'd go and I'd get invited, mainly because I'd know the PRs because I work in marketing. So we'd probably be mates, or we would have done a campaign together. So I would get easy access. So kind of nepotism in a way, which was great for me. But then I'd be like, look at my friends, and I'd be like, why are they not being invited to this? Like, they're way better than I am in like terms of their reach or the demographic that they're hitting or whatever it might be. And then I'd think about the campaigns that I would put on if I was, the PR that was putting on, and I was like, this just isn't right. So that's where my business came from. And I was constantly complaining to friends and family, and then also had friends complaining to me about things that were happening and things that they were seeing in the space. And I was like, someone needs to do something about this, but no one was really doing anything. And I think that was mainly because the influencer space behind the scenes was also very white. There aren't, and in marketing now, that it's still a big issue in terms of diversity. We have like gender diversity is like doing really well in the ad space now compared to what it was before. It was very much the boys club, and now it's now it's changing. But when it comes to ethnicity, it's still not great. And we're getting a lot of juniors come in now, which is fantastic, and that's exactly what we need. But that means that there's a real gap in the senior and kind of like C-suite job section, because no one was coming in because people weren't being hired before. So yeah, I think there's just so much that I saw that I just felt like I needed to make. I'm going to do it. I'll do something. That's basically why the business exists.
Charlotte, you did a marvelous job, because you've developed successful campaigns with many brands. Anyone who looks at your page or anyone who follows you understand that you really work successfully with them. So what's the common spark that's the audience, when you look at your audience, what do you think they're looking for as someone who's diverse, who's doing a campaign, building different images? What do you normally give them that makes them that makes your brand successful?
I think it depends, especially because I have so many different kind of, bows to my hat. So there's Charlotte the influencer, that is very different to Charlotte the business owner. So when I'm working with clients on the influencer campaign side, I'm always trying to explain to them that we just need to be super inclusive, and we need to create a space where anyone can see themselves there. And I think that's something that is really, really important. So as an example, you know, it could be anything. It could be like a brand that creates, I've got a plant pot next to me, it could be a plant pot, and they want to work with a bunch of influencers, and it's like, okay, well, who's your target audience? That's not that person. It doesn't look like one type of person. How can we now make sure that so many people can see themselves in that person? And when it's me as an influencer, that's very different. Obviously, I'm just me. So if a brand comes to me and they want to work with me, I hope it's because of my personality, what I put out into the world, and what I guess I must like tick boxes. So I'm very much into art. I'm really into like lifestyle, home, basically just staying at home by myself. That's like what I'm into. So if they want to if they want to work with me, they've probably seen that, and you know, they'll put me forward for a campaign. But there's lots of different things that someone could look for, but it just depends, I guess, what hat I'm wearing at the time.
Tell me about your agency, SevenSix Agency. I mean, that name is, there's a place called Seven Sisters as well in London, and so when I saw that Seven Sisters, I thought, oh, that's very catchy. So tell me about your agency and how is that going? What do you do?
Yeah, so SevenSix was launched in 2019, and we actually launched it. The name was really hard. The name was really hard to choose.
Yeah, I got it wrong. I thought it's Seven Sisters. SevenSix.
SevenSix, yeah.
Okay, yes, Sam, thanks for correcting me on that. I
okay.
don't know what, because there's a Seven Sister in
there
London.
is a Seven Sister, yeah, in North London.
Yes.
Which we were talking about earlier. But off camera, everybody. But yeah, SevenSix, I chose a name. Took me ages to figure out what I wanted to call the agency, because it's such a big responsibility. Like once you name something, you're like, oh. But it's actually a nod to the 1976 Race Relations Act. So it's part of the Discrimination Act and the 2010 Equality Act, which basically is the basis of, you know, us as Brits not being able to discriminate against people of color and people from minority backgrounds. And that's the core of the business. So I thought, let's name it something like that, but add like a little fun twist and just call it SevenSix to make it sound cool and not too serious. So a lot of people don't know what the name actually stands for, which is fine with me because I know. So
and what does the agency focus on?
So we do, we're kind of split into three parts. So we have the talent section, which is actually headed by my sister. She came on board in 2020 and is doing a stellar job. So she looks after a small pool of influencers and kind of helps them with their campaigns and guides them through the influencer world. Then we have the training department, which is me, and I work with brands on influencer marketing training, basically teaching how to do it. Inclusive marketing, which sits alongside diversity and inclusion training at work. So you get like a D&I trainer come in through HR and they're like, this is what inclusive, no, I don't even talk about inclusive marketing. This is, you know, unconscious bias, and this is what this means. And now we all need to like not be racist. And then the comms teams, like the marketing and the communications teams, will sit there and they're like, so how do we put this into a campaign? Like, how do we do this? And then I can come in and talk through it, right? So this is what we need to be doing. These are things that we need to think about when we put campaigns together and when we work with influencers or talent or anyone outside of the business. And then I also do strategy sessions with a lot of brands. And then we have the influencer network, which is my baby. And that is essentially a membership platform for influencers of all levels, and it's there for support. So there's a free side and a paid side, and each side you get quite a lot for it, but with the paid side you get access to an online hub which gives you downloadables, monthly events with industry experts. We do a lot with all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, to make sure that we're up to date and we're helping influencers like do things properly and know how to use the platforms appropriately as a creator rather than just like a normal person. And we do a lot to just make the space a bit more professional. So ensuring that they understand how to follow the ASA guidelines, which is, you know, having hashtag ad or ad in your post to ensure that your audience knows that it's an advertisement, or, you know, thinking about pensions and joining the creator union, or anything that is like career focused, because I want to make sure kind of my legacy, we could say, is that I want to make sure that the influencer space is as professional as possible. There is a lot out there for advertising, and because I work on both sides, I see it. So there's a lot out there for advertising and influencer agencies to support them with campaigns and understanding the rules and all of this stuff, but there isn't a lot out there for the influencers themselves that are doing the work. So it's a bit confusing why there's so many like membership clubs and subscriptions and platforms for agencies, but there's nothing for influencers really to really support them, unless it's focused around, here's how you grow your Instagram, which obviously is important, but it's not then going to sustain the industry and sustain people's careers. So I want to just make sure that I'm contributing to that.
And do you think when you do that, are you talking about like teachers have the NUT, National Unions of Teachers, protecting them? Are you thinking about forming an organization that protects the influencer in case things go wrong? Is that something in line?
No, there is actually one that has already been formed, and they are working really hard. So I'm here as more of a support. So we won't be doing things like legally supporting, you know, that is very much a union, and that's not my forte, but we will introduce you to the right accountant, or who's tried and tested because we work with them, or talk to the platforms to talk about safety on the internet and how to make sure you are being safe. Yeah, it's quite different. I think a union is very different to what I'm focusing on, because it's more about the union's really legal, and like that's not my bag.
Yes, so in any kind of issue, you go to them and they help you resolve the issue in
Yeah.
a calm way without lawyers, or sometimes they get the lawyers involved. As a business owner, 76 Agency, when you think about running a business, because there's one thing doing what you're doing, you're very, very much, big on brand marketing. As a business owner, how did you learn how to run a business? Because this is a question which many people don't talk about. The behind the scenes, you see the glamour of your work and she's fantastic, but how did you learn to run a business?
I learned on the job, and I would not recommend that. I wish I had a few things actually. I studied languages at university, but I did business for A level, and I do wish that I did languages and business at university, because I think that would have set me up a little bit. And I wish that I would have maybe spoken to a few people before I launched the business, so that I would have understood how things worked. I had really great people helping me, but not necessarily the right people at the beginning. So my accounts weren't in the best shape until I got my new accountant, because I didn't have the right accountant for my business type. So which I didn't know was a thing. Like you just assume anyone can do anything because that's their job, but I guess you have doctors who specialize in bones. You'd want them to fix your broken leg compared to someone who is a
general doctor.
Yeah. So I definitely learned on the job, and I learned everything the hard way. And that's why whenever my friends, like I'm meeting a really good friend of mine next week who is looking to go into talent management, and I went into talent management as a business owner 2 years ago and learned everything kind of on the job. So now I'm meeting her to just make sure that she knows what I know, because I'm just going to save her so much time. And I'm not going to set up courses or anything to do this, but if any of my friends ever need any advice, I will always be there, because I just didn't know anyone when I started. Like I didn't know anyone who was doing what I was doing. I had lots of friends who ran businesses, but not my type of business. So, and all businesses are different. So yeah, it looks glossy, but it's not. Behind the scenes, it was very much, last year specifically, it was very much like the analogy of the duck, like gliding on the water, and underneath, like the legs, like going as like fast as they can to try and keep the duck afloat. But now I think we're in a really good place, which is great.
I'm really amazed. I'm really happy for you as well. Well, being an influencer, everyone talks about this. People look at my page and say, people say, you're an influencer. What is that? What is an influencer? What personality or qualities do you think people need to really get themselves into that influencer category, where brands start to trust them to be able to work with it?
I think the term influencer is so generic. It means anything, and also anyone can be an influencer. But I think to be a professional creator or a professional influencer, you need to be honest, you don't really need to do much, because it is a bit of a wild west, and brands, a lot of them don't know what they're doing, so they will pay anyone to do anything. But to have a good campaign and to be on the right track, you need to have a good following, and that's not numbers, that is a strong community. You need to have, there needs to be a purpose. So having like 1 billion followers is amazing if a lot of them engage with you, but if you don't have that community there actually caring about what you're talking about, then it doesn't really mean anything. So I have friends who are really small nano or micro influencers, with like 5,000 sometimes, or some of them like 10,000 followers, and they get paid really well and they do really great campaigns because their analytics are basically showing what they're about. So they get really good link clicks, and they get really good conversations in their comments or in their DMs, and they actually are able to either sell a product or service or push to something. So like not all influencers necessarily are about ads and pushing products. Some of them might be pushing towards change.org petitions. We worked with Greenpeace last year or the year before, and we got a load of influencers on board to work with us to push to a campaign that was a petition for kind of saving the Amazon from deforestation. And none of it was click here to buy, it was click here to sign the petition. And that was really exciting because it shows like the other side of the influencer world. It doesn't always have to be about products and buying, but a lot of the time it is, and that's also fine. And if you have a loyal following that will buy from you, then that's the kind of influencer that if I want a salesperson, that's the kind of influencer that I would go for.
You have a podcast. Tell me a little bit about your podcast.
My podcast is my baby. We're actually in the middle of launching season 5. What's the date today? Yeah, it comes out next Wednesday, actually, the 14th. But it was a passion project that turned into something more serious, which was really exciting. I didn't kind of expect this to happen. So a friend of mine, Bianca Foley, we met on Instagram. We met through sliding. She slid into my DMs and asked me if I wanted to go for a coffee and go shopping. And I was like, yes, that was great, because I followed her for a while and I really liked her style, and I just thought I could see through her personality that we would get on. So I met her and we just started this really great relationship. And then a few years into our relationship, we just started asking loads of questions about the influencer space, and we were just like, do you also get just like loads of packages all the time? You just got boxes everywhere. And it was like, yeah, it's like really bad. I feel really guilty. Like my recycling bin is like overgrown. I hate it. And we would always complain about the same things. And then we were like, I wonder like what is our contribution to like the negative kind of climate issues in this world. And we started to look into it, and then we were like, you know what, let's put on an event and ask some people, like some more expert people, what they think. So we put on this event, and we didn't do a very good job at marketing it because we literally had no time. So we did it in like a week, but it was sold out. And we were like, what? How do people find us? Because a lot of the room, we didn't know them. And we were just like, well, who are these people? And we realized everyone that we asked, they actually Googled sustainability. And because we put the event on Eventbrite, the event got pushed to them because it was one of the few events in London at that time that was happening just on that week. And we just had a load of strangers who were interested in sustainability. And that was really interesting because we realized that there was a lots of questions that people were asking, and we were also asking the same. So we did the event, it did really well. It got great feedback, but then one of the biggest pieces of feedback was there wasn't enough time to talk about, to answer every question. So we decided to create a podcast just on a whim, and we launched it in January 2020, thinking everything was going to be great and we were going to have in-person sessions every week and all of this. And then March hit and we were like, oh, then we went on Zoom and we did everything online. And now we're back in, after like 2 years, we're back in real life recording, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's going really well and we love it. It's all about sustainability. We speak to experts on different topics around the sustainability kind of word. So, you know, sustainability can mean so many different things to different people. It can talk about people and labor. It can be, you can talk about racism when it comes to sustainability. You could even be talking about kind of geography. There's so many different elements, as well as like waste and climate change and things like that. So we really deep dive into different sections. And this season we've slightly changed how we work, and we've made it a bit more educational. And I'm a geek, as I said before, but it's really interesting. So we've just finished the first 2 episodes, and yeah, they go live next week. And I just love it. It's just so much fun. Just get to chat with my best friend for an hour about something to do with the climate.
That's amazing. Yeah, and it's true, like you said, it's everything. It's the fashion, it's what we do, what we eat as well.
Yeah.
Like also sustainability. So I'm glad you taken on that big project, because it's something that we all need to talk about to look at the future and protect.
Yeah.
Have a better world for our kids out there, not just for us, but our kids. My final question, Charlotte, what gives you joy? You are such a busy lady. Your daughter, your fiance, I'm sure that must be busy planning a wedding, and there's just so much things to do. Your business owner, what gives you joy? How do you find time to relax and find yourself?
I am constantly on the go, which is good and bad. I like to be busy, I always have, but joy for me comes in different ways. I love being with my family. It was my mum's 60th birthday last week, so we had a big party, and everyone thought I was like really drunk, but I wasn't at all. I hardly even had a drink. I was just so happy and excited and excitable, and that brings me so much joy. Just seeing my family and my friends together, just that is everything. Going out with my friends brings me so much joy. So I'm just booking in time to make sure that we do things, and not just, you know, sitting on our phones together at dinner, which is what, you know, we seem to have kind of, as people seem to just do now, but like going to museums and watching shows. And like my friends and I went to like play mini golf the other day, which is very not me, but we had so much fun because we were together. So things like that. Also just like walking my dog, just being outside. I'm very grateful that I live in like suburban North London, so lots of green, and yeah, just being with the people or animal that I love.
No, it's really true, because I think the thing is that because we're so busy, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you forget that you're actually a human being as well.
Yeah.
You need that time out for yourself. You need
like
that
constant
time.
go, and you sit back and you're like,
I've got to that point where after a certain time, I just have to put the phone down. I really put the phone down. And when I get to it, though there'll be lots of messages, it's fine. But I just have to realize that I'm not a machine. I need that time out to just get my brain working again, get it recharged, drink lots of water, I have to
Yeah.
drink my 4 liters a day. Yes, keep it going because the brain needs that fluid for you to be able to think well and not be so emotional. Charlotte, any final words before we do? I'll let you go.
No, thank you very much. And I just want to say, I've been sitting here watching you for this last hour and I'm obsessed with your jumper. That would be my final words is your outfit is amazing and I want to either borrow your jumper or to buy it myself.
Oh, I will definitely be sending this a jumper across. I'm so sorry they don't have it anymore because I got this last in Christmas last year.
Oh
And they don't
no.
have it. I'm like, oh gosh, I wish it was something I was wearing that I had that was still in store and they don't.
Oh, it's a shame.
I'm really glad that we had this chat and I applaud you for everything you're doing. Thank you for your time and keep
Oh, thank
doing
you.
more for the diverse crowd. And we need it. We need more of you out there. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.